Yeah, I know. I said I'd make a part 2.
Last time I edited the entire video in DaVinci Resolve, so you guessed it. To be fair, I'm going to edit this one in Final Cut. Welcome to the definitive DaVinci Resolve versus Final Cut Pro from the perspective of an editor who uses both daily, part 2. I'm the only one that likes editing this much. I can't believe that I'm about to talk about this difference. I guess it just shows how much of an editing nerd I am. But our first difference today is the literal playhead, and it's a huge win for Final Cut. The implementation of the Final Cut playhead and cursor, in my opinion, is, well, genius. In Resolve, to move the playhead to a specific point, you need to select a point in the small upper area of your timeline workspace. Gross. Whereas in Final Cut, you essentially have two playheads that behave very intuitively. One that is your main playhead, and then a second, which I like to call the cursor playhead or secondary playhead. The main playhead is responsible for whenever or wherever you last were at when playing back your edits. The secondary cursor follows your mouse and allows you to start playback wherever, temporarily preview sections of the timeline, and even make cuts and edits without having to move the primary playhead. But again, the biggest point here is that I can move my mouse to somewhere on the timeline and start playing that section right away without having to specifically click on a small little section of the UI. Resolve, I'm talking to you. This next difference really boils down to, do you want it easy or do you want control? Tracking in Final Cut is stupidly easy in my opinion, and honestly the easiest tracking I've ever done in any sort of tracking software. That being said, generally speaking, I find it doesn't work as well, and sometimes just straight up doesn't work at all. Resolve is more complex, but once you learn how it works, it has so much control and is stupidly good that sometimes I wonder just how it is as good as it is. But that being said, the ability to drag text and pictures straight onto faces in Final Cut and have it recognize that they're faces is pretty fucking cool.
Ooh. We pause this interruption because you better hit that like and subscribe button. No, I don't do that. Please.
Please don't hit those.
No, I'm tuning in real quick. I just gotta say, I'm gonna be a good sport. This is good for me. This is growth. This is why we have this channel. I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna persevere. I really want to stop editing this video in Final Cut, and I really want to finish it in Resolve, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna finish. And here's the crazy thing: I'm using plugins. I'm not even using bare bones Final Cut. Plugins that allow you to add motion and smooth it out like you can just do in Resolve. All the, like I'm using good stuff. But again, this is driving me crazy, and it really just boils down to like two things. Every time I plug in a SD card into my computer, I swear to God, Final Cut, if you ask me one more time where you can jam that into some sort of goddamn library, I'm gonna punch a wall. I've scoured the internet. I've looked everywhere. I don't think you can turn this feature off, and it's so stupid that you can't turn it off. I can't believe it. If you're watching this video and you know how to turn this off, please help me. I recognize that I don't know everything, but I'm pretty sure that you can't do this. And reason number 2, keyframing. For the love of everything, for the love of just the bare minimum of existence of my happiness, can Final Cut 17 please have keyframing? I can't believe how, again, I just sit here and think about all these hours that I was editing without basic keyframing functionality in Final Cut before I started using Resolve, and it's just crazy to me what you can do with some good keyframing. You can make amazing stuff, especially with this style that brings me joy right now. Anyway, this was good for me. This was therapeutic. I had to get it out. I'm going to finish this in Final Cut. You might see me again at the end of this edit talking about this. let's finish the video. We'll finish it in Final Cut. For anything this type of video, I'm never doing this in Final Cut again until they at least add keyframing, for fuck's sake. All right, let's get back into it.
Do you hear that? It's the war drums of Resolve coming to kill Final Cut again. If you've ever used Final Cut, you probably know of what I call the bloated library problem. In other words, Final Cut likes to do a lot of background rendering and explodes that library file in order to make it so that your computer can easily play back your project. While this is a fantastic thing for your editing experience, you often run out of hard drive space shockingly fast. And I am shockingly frustrated at how little control you have in terms of trying to make this file size smaller. There are ways, but even these ways I have found still create massively bigger background rendering files than anything Resolve does. At the end of the day, Resolve gives you a ton more control to not only pick where you want your background rendering files to go, which could be a completely separate hard drive, but it also allows you to choose the resolution and the file type, which means if you want to, your cache and render files can be so small. At the end of the day, they both work, but in my opinion, one works so much better. All in all, another serious dub for Resolve, with one minor asterisk. For masking in Roto, Fusion just crushes the draw mask in Final Cut. And even further, the magic mask, which is crazy, just makes this a zero competition. The asterisk is involving Final Cut's ability to mask all effects. You can't do this easily in Resolve, and I actually love the implementation from Final Cut on this. But again, I'd take the magic mask over this every day of the week, so this one easily goes to Resolve.
Okay, whew. Guys, we made it. We're at the end of the video. We've hit all of the topics that I wanted to hit for part 2. Again, I love these videos. They're so niche. I might even make a part 3. I'm probably going to do a little bit of a gap. I really want to finish my DaVinci Resolve course, which if you don't know about, I'm making a really in-depth course, and it's going to be all about DaVinci Resolve. If you are just hearing about this for the first time, this might be your sign to subscribe, because that will be coming out hopefully at the end of the year. No paywall, no nothing. It's coming out on the YouTube channel. It's literally just for people to learn editing in DaVinci Resolve. So I want to focus on that. I want to get that done before I even consider doing a part 3 like this. So that being said, again, I could talk for hours about these differences at a high level. Really what it sums up to and what it boils down to is just, I love the magnetic timeline in Final Cut, which is why I have such a hard time completely giving up this program, but literally everything else is fantastic about Resolve to an nth degree. And so just at the end of the day, I love both of these. I love talking about these, but thank you guys so much for watching. I finished this in Final Cut. I have a hard time foreseeing any future where I would do any video like this ever again in Final Cut just because of how painful it was, but I did it. It's possible, but Resolve is just a better tool for this. So with that, I'm getting out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and again, stay tuned for that course. Stay tuned for shorts, which I'll probably be making in the meantime, and just, yeah.